Hello and a warm welcome to another episode. My guest today is Linus Haferkemper, former Head of Customer Success UK, DACH and Scandinavia at Dropbox and Vice President of Customer Success at Chirpany. Together, we are sharing the same passion for customer success and how customer success can transform from being a cost center to a growth engine.
Linus, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Björn. It's wonderful to be here with you today.
And we have an even better topic for today, how customer success will secure your growth story. And for the ones who haven't met you in person, so you are one of the veterans in customer success, I would say. You have worked for US companies and you have worked for a known Swiss company. And I'm super excited to dig into more. But before we do so, for the ones who will see this video, I have to ask you, where are all the decoration coming from?
Yeah, that's I get that question all the time. I love it. So this is basically just proof that I'm married to a successful wife who has myself as a support. Yeah, so.
Okay, so what an icebreaker. So let's dive into it. So customer success, out of a sudden, it became sexy, not overnight, but it's something what you claiming already for quite a while. So why is it so sexy now, and why is it turning into from a cost center to a really profit and growth center?
Many SaaS companies out there experience that it's becoming a bit more difficult to land deals, to grow, and obviously growth is a very important part of every SaaS company. And nowadays we're looking more into sustainable growth and probably a bit less into hyper growth. And obviously there are two sources for growth. One is your net new business, your new customers that we all want to win. The other source are existing customers that you can really grow. And here, customer success plays a key role in securing this growth. And yeah, that's basically my observation.
All right, then let's dive into it in more detail, because of course, kind of as I would say a classic is always sharpen ICP, work on the value proposition, but there's so much more out there in terms of what kind of measures can be taken, and especially what can be done with existing clients.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are many things that you really want to look into. Obviously, first, understanding and mining your existing clients. There's quite a bit of data analytics required. If you, for example, look at segmentation, usually you can either segment by current spend or you can segment by potential growth. And that's like really one thing to look at. The second thing, and not all of my clients have done that yet, is to really get systematic on analyzing churn. So one thing is obviously looking at growth, but the other factor is to look at churn. And besides that, I guess today's episode is really focused on growth. There are just a couple of things that fundamentally need to change, especially when we look at the mindset of customer success teams.
Please go ahead, because I think mindset is super important, because I know a lot of, so I'm coming from sales, or this is kind of where I got the authority from, I would say.
Yeah.
But so what needs to change when it comes to mindset? Because for some people out there, customer success might be the better selling customer care person.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe I start with a story. I just attended a networking event here in Hamburg, and I got to speak to someone. And the first question is, "Oh yeah, what does customer success mean to you?" And I'm fundamentally sick of this question. The bottom line, customer success takes over the responsibility for a customer after the customer commits, after the initial deal. That includes the onboarding, that includes realizing impact, and that includes upselling, downselling, or any other activities with a customer. So ultimately, in the good old days when I learned my first experiences, we call this account management, and it's a sales function. So customer success owns revenue, and revenue is one of the most important metrics that you have in customer success. So what first and foremost needs to change is this, "Oh yeah, I make customers happy" mindset. That's not part, or that's not the task of the customer success team. That's the task of the entire company. And customer success owns the revenue of existing companies. So if this is one takeaway that our audience takes from this podcast for today, it's definitely this one.
Based on my experience, and I'm super curious what you think. When I'm looking at the different roles of a customer success team, ideally, I really like the very crisp answer. You are in charge of revenue, and so for you're taking responsibility for churn, but also for the expansion.
Yes.
So when I'm looking at the different phases of the customer journey, I see at least for early stage startup, I see at least two different roles. So one thing is to make sure that the onboarding is efficient and really serving customer needs to get as fast as possible into the impact or value phase. And then there is a second part where it comes to, let's talk about money. One of my experience was where I had a really great customer success manager, and they were saying, okay, how about we push you more into the direction, or we develop you more into the direction of expansion and cross-selling and really getting into it with a more commercial mindset. And he said, frankly, I like to be the good guy, and you in sales or wherever, I would love to have someone who's talking about money. So what's your perspective on that?
It's a pattern that I also see with clients of mine, and it's probably more a topic in our European world, or especially in let's say our Central European world, where money has this bad connotation, where you don't talk about salaries, you don't speak about money. I mean, the differentiation, I'm the good guy, you're talking about the money, that's already wrong. Like that's a mindset change. And I urge every CSM out there, but also everybody who's responsible for customers, to proactively talk about money. Because at the end of the day, my customer is giving me X because he's hoping to achieve Y, and Y has to be bigger than X. And if I don't understand what my customer wants to achieve, then I have a problem. And this is ultimately a conversation about money. And if I want to take responsibility for the customer, but I don't want to have this conversation, then then there is something wrong in the relationship, which customer success claims to own, and they rightfully do. But money is part of that relationship.
Okay, I'm a big fan of strong statements. So. And it's super interesting because I have seen, and you have worked for used companies as well. The other way to handle it is that you have kind of a classic customer success and customer serving and enablement role or focus. And then as soon as it comes to money, and either it's kind of a renewal, it's upsell, cross-sell, expansion, then it goes back to the sales department. I think that could be an alternative, depending on the legacy team you have into it, because what you are telling is, at least in the German-speaking market, I would say, is the default that a lot of customer success people are highly uncomfortable talking about money.
I mean, that's what they've been taught by their parents. You don't mention how much pocket money you get, and so on and so forth. But let's not go down that road. The aspect that you were mentioning is basically a bigger sophistication of the post sales teams. So you have renewal teams, you have separate account management teams who do the commercials and so on. And I think this is something open to every startup or open to every organization. However, it makes only sense if your team has reached a critical size. If you have some, let's say 50 customers, and you probably have 2 CSMs, maybe also somebody working in support, looking after these clients, you simply cannot afford this. But after you've achieved a certain size and you have a couple of hundred customers, couple of thousand customers, where you want to dedicate some resource to, then such a segmentation of the post-sales journey into specialized roles makes a lot of sense. You have a separate onboarding team, you have the standard CSM who realizes the impact, but who should definitely be able to quantify it and also be aware of the commercials. And maybe somebody's better at negotiating than I am. Fine, go for it. And you have a separate renewals team. All that is fine, but that's a conversation I actually have with my clients very often. That there is a certain model of a post-sales organization for every stage of your company and for every size. And the last element that you mentioned, the culture change, the evolution, what do you do with your existing team? That's a conversation you should have up front. So if you're a startup founder and you're hiring your first 2-3 CSMs, you want to have an image of your company in 3 to 5 years. And therefore, subsequently, also an image, what will this customer success organization look like? And then you could also mention, hey, today your job will look like this, but tomorrow there's opportunity for specialization. And this is a conversation that you could have upfront with CSMs that you hire. It's something I train all CS leaders, all startup CEOs that I'm working with to have that image and to have that conversation with their team. Because what we've seen enough is basically organizations changing due to that need, but not taking their team on board. So essentially managing the change pretty poorly.
This episode is a little bit different because we prepared in advance 5 actionable topics which need to change if you have still this kind of, I would say, classic customer success organization. And what are kind of powerful steps turning your customer success into a really profitable business contributor? And you said remove non-value activities is the first bucket. So very curious to hear more about that.
It's like doing a spring cleaning. Before you do a proper cleaning, first you tidy up. And I can share 2 examples of what I mean by that. I've worked with companies or in companies where customer success teams were writing PDF guides. I mean, if you're a SaaS company and you believe you need PDF guides, fine, but potentially there is a better team to do this activity. So this is something that you want to remove from the customer success team's tasks. The other topic,
if I may jump in, because I
yes,
have a lot of clients where I love to work also with product in terms of customer success, because if you have to write PDF guides and you are not kind of searching for product market fit, but you are actually running a company with decent product market fit, I would say, okay, let's put smart brains together and think, how can we improve the usability? How can we improve the product, that we get rid of this non-value adding tasks instead of just fixing it with a great title of customer success, but it's purely customer care or fixing,
yeah,
and not develop product yet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm delighted you're mentioning the product team, because something I observe at very early stage companies in their CS teams is that the CSMs cover a lot of imperfections in the product, and that's okay. Again, you just want to be aware of that. If your product isn't that good or self-explanatory and you require resources, then plan for them. But ultimately, it's something that your product team should be in charge of, but you're covering with a different team. So yeah, so this is really one example of removing non-value adding activities from the CS team and just solving them. And thanks for the example. The other uncomfortable truth, and I see more and more conversations about that, is removing bad fit customers. I am currently working with a company from Switzerland, and they clearly tell me that the average revenue per customer that they have today is going to increase because the very first customers they acquired in the early days and that were a little smaller turned out to be a bad fit, and now they're changing that. And it's never really good to break up a relationship, but it's something that we need to do not only in a personal world but also in a professional world to get my organization on track. So yeah, removing non-value adding activities is the first thing I would start doing when turning customer success into a profit center.
Yeah, love that. And we come to how to measure it actually. So two thoughts on that. So especially if you kind of have these early adopters, early clients, and if you look at the ARPA, then you will see that you have kind of normally quite a range of different values. And the other thing, I recently listened to another podcast, and when you're talking about ICP, and we touched it barely, that often we are thinking about ICP for marketing and sales purposes, new sales purposes. But I am a huge fan of cohort analysis in terms of what is the NRR per segment, and this circle back to ICP. Mm-hmm. Because at the very end, this is kind of what you're looking for. How is this fueling your growth? And there kind of just another level I would love to add into the equation of either remove non-value add task or double down on the true value bringing or revenue growing customers.
Yeah, I can only agree to that. So yeah, it's looking at data analysis. There are really many things that you can do, and you just gave a great example.
Then let's simplify, because you can get mad, and there's entire madness with tools and technology out there. But nevertheless, we both agree that we touched already NRR. There are three main metrics we care about to turn the cost center into a business contributor.
Yeah. So one thing that you definitely want to look at is basically the time and the conversion rate from closed won to onboarding completed, because that's when technically your customer, your users, should be ready to derive value from your tool. So how long does it take, and how many of my users actually make it? Not all users will make it, and you can measure that. There are in every product there are things that you want to achieve in order to derive value from a solution. And then a similar ratio is from onboarding completed to impact delivered. And impact delivered is really when your customer understands, okay, this makes really sense, or this has just become a lot easier or simpler for my organization. So these are ratios and timeframes that you want to look at. And then lastly, I mean, we're talking about a customer success organization. So let's get the customer into the game. Try to quantify the impact that your customer has from your solution. And ideally, you develop a model for that. And ideally, you do that with your customer so that they also confirm, or even better, challenge you on that or have a discussion. The more engaged your customers are in the quantification of the impact, the better, because then they acknowledge that they get value from your solution.
Really like that perspective, and I'm super curious to learn more about best practice, because as I see it, there are at least two ways to get these insights and also that check in with the customer. And the one thing is, we'll come to this in a second, is from a commercial point of view, that you have regular review meetings, you are talking about business meetings and so forth. The other thing is that you, again, product is coming into the game, that it's embedded in your product, that you can instantly see the impact and also the what happened in the past. Because I invested in one company, and they do it brilliantly. So they assess the status quo, and then they show instantly what kind of savings, what kind of revenue uplift did this software create, which is marvelous for not just telling, but really showing the impact you're doing with the product.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe for our audience out there, I mean, I don't know exactly what their product was, but whatever USP your product has that you're selling to the customer, you want to make measurable. If I think back on my time at Dropbox, we provided our company admins with a dashboard where they could see how's the external collaboration, because that's something where Dropbox was really strong at and prided themselves with. So we also had that in a dashboard. How much external collaboration is there going on? With whom are my users collaborating? And whatever USP or whatever it is that your tool does, try to make it measurable and surface it to the customer. So I really like that your customer was even able to quantify it, because I think that's the end game.
Yeah, that's the next level. So I would say, as a summary, so try really measure it, measure also the baseline, and then more and more turn into that impact and value dimension, to not just prevent churn, but also have the basement for expansion, which then pays into the growth perspective. So we have touched the non-value activities. We talked about KPIs. So number 3, what's on the list?
Yeah, I'll make this one a bit quicker. There's a lot of literature out there, and we could even do a separate podcast on this, but it's really about establishing an advocacy program and to increase referrals from your accounts. If you have a kick-ass product, and if your customers really love what you're doing, then build these fans, send them a couple of stickers. I remember times when people would even pay for Slack stickers on the floor because they were so happy to show that they were using this new tool. So build your fans, send out t-shirts, whatever it is that your customers might like. The other thing that you want to look at are really referrals. Ask your customers who within their network they have, or maybe they can speak at a conference for you, or give a review on some of these review platforms out there. But this is something that you can do that you can do actively and also automatically, or at least you can have some triggers in there. And I see many companies who say, oh yeah, we're busy with this or that topic, we will look at this later. Your customers can also be a really good sales team for themselves, and then open their network as well. So definitely underrated.
So let's shift into number 4, and enablement is another trending topic, super powerful, and very curious to hear your experience on that front.
Especially for our listeners who need to transform their customer success organization from a cost center into a profit center, from I make my customers happy into I grow my customers, I overcome this fear of speaking money. You want to coach your team and coach them in question techniques, go properly about account planning. So for your top tier accounts, you want to have an internal plan, what you want to achieve with this account. You even can have an external plan that you can discuss with your customer. Hey, now that's the summer, let's look into H2. What is it that we want to achieve this year? Always keeping in mind, what's the impact that they want to achieve? What can I contribute to essentially increase this impact? And this has a lot to do with sales fundamentals, I'd say, where you research an organization, where you understand, okay, what's the business model? What needs to turn faster for my company, for my customer, for them to make more money, and how with my tool can I contribute into this? The knowledge for this, all of our listeners will have this in-house. It's in the sales team. Just transfer that to the customer success team. Shouldn't be that hard.
And is fueling the internal alignment and really building up a go-to-market revenue team, how you call it. I really like the internal perspective. Nevertheless, I would say, depending, of course, on legacy and mindset, that it will need some time. So I see it's either way, it's proper change management. There's a huge potential in-house, but I would dare to say, if you're serious about the process, there is no shortcut. So managing expectation, you will see some initial traction, but I would, roughly speaking, say that you should encounter 3 to 6 months to really get a solid base into the new.
I agree, and thank you for bringing in that time dimension to just manage some expectations. I would say it takes at least 6 months. I mean, if we look at changing in existing organizations, the CSMs, they will already have set up meetings. There are ongoing conversations, and to change the way they do it, like to build it, to train it, and to change it, it does take some time and some effort, and a lot of coaching. And depending how busy your customer success team is, how overwhelmed they are, maybe with too many accounts, it will take longer.
All right. So thanks for adding real insights into the equation. So the last point I really love, because we and it's kind of closing the circle, because we started talking about money, and then you said, okay, there are other ways to monetize the value you're bringing as a customer success. So I'm super curious to hear the fifth one as well.
Yeah, of course. I mean, customer success teams pride themselves in doing so many good things for the client. And I wonder how many of these teams actually charge for them. There might be a couple of things where you cannot really charge for, but if you do a full-blown onboarding, if you set up 5 sessions of, I don't know, 30 to 60 minutes to train your tool, but also to bond with your customer, to speak about plans and impact, then you're investing your time. It's more than half a day, and you need some preparation and some post-processing. So make your customers pay for that. Some of my customers produce reports, or when customers leave, they do data exports. There's always a human being behind this activity doing something where you want to pay for. It's like going to the dentist. If you ask them to do something extra, somebody will pay for that, or taking your bike to the bike shop. There's nothing really for free out there. And this is a very strong element. So build a service catalog, consider the time that it takes, consider how likely it is that your customer will accept this. If your tool is very complicated and you charge for training, this might not go down so well, but if you do a very extensive training, you can actually charge for that. So that's number one. Number two, because our initial topic is how to secure your growth story with customer success. Consider introducing service credits. I've done this at one of the companies that I've worked for, and also one of my customers is doing that right now. So rather than paying for these services in euros or Swiss francs or dollars, you can also introduce a currency system that you maybe discount. So let's say you purchase $500 worth of service credits, maybe you sell them for 400. The genius step behind this is you make a service that's usually non-recurring revenue into recurring revenue, so ARR, by introducing this currency system or this currency plan. And this is a genius activity that's actually also a lot of fun. So I love doing that with my customers.
I was thinking about another alternative, and I'm super curious about your opinion, is when we look about different products, you also could do that, you adding some of the service features and or the credit system into the product itself. So that you then have a kind of classic SaaS expansion revenue based on going from light to premium, and have then the kind of the regular upsell motion. What is your perspective on versus single services, or going more into the direct upgrading or expansion?
It depends on the type of service that you want to have. I mean, there are services that most customers would need or appreciate that you can easily package into a more premium SKU. That's definitely possible. You will have some services that are more one-off. I don't know, a special training for, let's say, a new CEO that you hired, or things like ad hoc reportings, if that's something that is not built into your solution. So it's definitely smart to consider both, and to really be strategic about this. The only word of, let's say, care or attention I would like to drop here is, if you put into your premium plans a lot of services, you also artificially are increasing the price probably too far. So always, yeah,
All
get a
right.
balance. I was about to say check with the competition. Hopefully you're not doing that, but you're leading the competition, and then they will copy from you.
All right. So what a ride with you, Linus. It's just 30 minutes, but it was gone within a flip. So how customer success will secure your growth story was our main angle. We talked about 5 things. We talked about a lot of things, but just to summarize. So it starts with remove non-value adding activities for customer success. But before that, talked about the mindset shift, and I really like your strong position regarding let's talk money also in customer success and along all the functions. Then we talked about what should be measured. We talked a lot about how to quantify the impact, which is, I think, fundamentally important, and then goes also back to marketing and sales. So it's contributing the growth story from 2 angles and 2 dimensions. We talked about really making them fans and to push referrals. We talked about enablement, and I really like the 5th one in monetizing addition or creating additional revenues, whether through upsell and or the service revenues. Did I miss
Fantastic.
anything?
That summarizes it very well. It has been a pleasure, and maybe, yeah, as very concrete next steps for our listeners out there, if I may, sit down with your sales team, align with them. Ultimately, it's one organization looking after customers end to end, from the first marketing email till your customer is happy. And for the CSMs that listen to us, start with account planning. Who are your most important customers? What do you want to achieve with them?
Thanks so much. There's nothing more to add. So we will link your profile if for the ones who would like to learn more. It has been a true pleasure. So have a wonderful day,
Thank you
Linus.
so much. Thanks for having me, Björn.